What's good, y'all, and welcome to my review for Takeover Stand and Deliver. And overall, as you guys know, this is the first Takeover in front of a crowd. I am going to be miserable this week because I got this. WrestleMania, of course, is in a few hours. And then tomorrow I got to the last episode of AOT and night 2 of WrestleMania. So I got a lot of videos planned. I got a lot of videos I got to do for this weekend. But, yeah, man. The show itself was phenomenal. I loved it. There were a lot. Every match was great to excellent, man. There were a lot of amazing matches in here, man. But I gotta say, and it sucks that I'm saying this when this is the first takeover we have gotten that's in an arena in like 2 years. This is the weakest takeover I've ever seen. And like I said, the show wasn't bad. Like I said, I loved the show. It was an amazing show, but it just didn't have that. Takeover. The crowd, of course, was a part of that. The crowd wasn't the typical takeover crowd outside of a handful of spots, man. But the matches were fantastic, man. But this really made me miss the black and gold NXT, because you guys know how hyped I was for those takeovers, and you guys know how much I would just gush about them. How this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, But yeah, man, this is an amazing takeover, man. Hell, it'll probably end up being better than WrestleMania, because you know how takeovers, even at 2.0 takeovers, I still end up thinking are better than the main roster shows anyway. But yeah, awesome show. Definitely the weakest takeover I've seen, but still a lot of great shit here, man. So let's just jump right in. All right, but first thing we got to talk about, I love the arena. Thought it looked nice. It was great. Like I said, it was great to see Takeover once again back in an arena in front of a crowd. So that was nice. And the arena, I thought, overall looked really, really good. Now, first problem with the show, and this really shows you that Triple H is not in charge of jobber entrances. Because Solo Sikoa, if I'm pronouncing his name right, Grayson Waller, and Santos Escobar all got jobber entrances. When the show started, they were already in the ring. Why? This ain't NXT. This is fucking Takeover. Why are we giving jobber entrances on a goddamn Takeover at the start of a pay-per-view? Oh, excuse me, a premium live event is what Vince likes to call it. Why? That was the first thing that irked me. I was like, are you kidding me right now? Jobber entrances? But anyway, Cameron Grimes and Carmella has at the very least got their entrances. And actually with Cameron's, it's pretty funny where he comes in there where on the Titantron you have a spaceship going to the moon, landing on the moon, then Cameron, which I thought was pretty funny. So the match itself, and this honestly was might have been the match of the night. It was either between this or the women's championship match that I thought which one I thought was better than the match of the night. But both of those were definitely the highlights of the show for me personally. So you had these guys, obviously, like usual, most ladder matches, chaotic. You got people throwing them all over the goddamn place. You had some really insane spots like Grayson Waller, after you had the rest of the other members of Legado del Fantasma distracting and taking down Grayson Waller's muscles. Where they got him between these two ladders, and the other two members of Legado del Fantasma basically just sandwiched him between the two ladders. Eventually, both Cameron Grimes and Carmelo Hayes get on top of the ladder, both on top of the ladder. Cameron, I think, ended up getting off his ladder for whatever reason midway, but Grayson Waller goes up there, goes into his inner Jeff Hardy, and then does an elbow drop from this top of this ladder onto the ladder with Carmelo Hayes on it, and Carmelo gets out of the way in the last second, and bruh, yo. This Grayson Waller is one crazy motherfucker, because this man looked like he took a nasty fall when he came down there. He took both ladders with him, man. Could not have been pleasant, man. That could not have been a pleasant spot, but that was an amazing spot. You, of course, had Carmelo Hayes. You had everyone grabbing ladders and stacking, getting them all closer as everyone's trying to grab. You had Carmelo shoot a jump shot before he went to go to the ride, but he ended up missing because he doesn't get the championship one time. Carmelo's hype man, I forget his name. He actually comes in there, grabs a ladder, and apparently he's afraid of heights. I don't know where they got this on commentary. They were talking about this on commentary. I don't know if this was mentioned on an episode of NXT, and I just missed that part. But apparently he's afraid of heights, so here he is, just scared, scarily climbing up the ladder to get the title. That was hilarious, man. We also had everyone doing a fucking suicide dive up. First off, you had Sicko, he was the first one to leap off the top rope, to jump over the top rope onto Grayson Waller's muscles. He barely went down. Then then you had Santos Escobar going in for a suicide dive. Then Carmelo Hayes and Cameron Grimes are going at Cameron. Eventually throws him over, or like I guess tosses him, or like I don't know, that move you do where you move where where he counters the move and he throws him over the top rope, but they still land on the mat and they're all that move. Like I don't know what the hell it's called, but he does that and gets Cameron Grimes, or not Cameron, gets Carmelo Hayes over onto the other side of the ring. Then Cameron Grimes, Carmelo Hayes ducks as Cameron Grimes leaps over the top rope and lands on everybody else. Then Carmelo Hayes hits one of the cleanest moonsaults I've ever seen, man. This man looked like he was fucking floating in air, man. Like, yo, Charlotte, you might want to take some notes, my girl. Sorry, had to get the Charlotte reference. But yeah. Then there's probably some other crazy spots that I'm forgetting about. But shit, this match was fucking awesome. Eventually, we end the match off with Carmelo trying to go for the towel, but Santos pulls him down, hits him with a knee to the stomach before hitting the Phantom Driver. Then Cameron comes in there, hits the cave-in from the top rope onto Santos before he rushes up the ladder and grabs the champion. Finally, Cameron Grimes has gone to the moon. Yeah, man, he is indeed the new NXT North American champion. I'm, of course, a very happy man. I've been hoping Cameron to get some gold for a while now, and I'm glad to see he's finally a champion, man. Kind of crazy that he was the runner-up in that breakout tournament, and Jordan Miles is nowhere to be seen. Just saying. But yeah, man, this was a fucking awesome match. Probably the best match on the night. If not this, it was the women's fail forward match. Next up was Tommaso Ciampa and Tony D'Angelo. Love Tony D. This was a great match. It was everything it needed to be. Obviously, this is going to be Ciampa's last match, which, man, NXT really is dead now. Like, you know, the name change and everything was one thing. Then when Johnny left, that was like, damn, NXT is dead. Now that Ciampa's gone too, it's like, damn, nothing of the old NXT is left. All of it is gone. It is all burned to ash. NXT is now true. But this was still a great match. Ciampa actually came in during his entrance. He actually did Triple H's water spit thing. That was awesome. Then he did like HBK's like flex thing. I don't know what he calls that. That like he spreads his legs and shows up and flexes his muscles and shit. He did that. That was pretty cool. But yeah, man, the match itself was over really great. This was probably Tony D's best match because it's Ciampa, of course it is. But yeah, so you had Ciampa going at it with like the knees to the face when Tony D was in the corner. He was putting his hands like he was sleeping. And he's like, one more, and he does it like 2 more times back to back. That was pretty cool. Ciampa tries to grab it and starts to get like removing the padding off the floor, which for some reason would not cooperate with him. He did it like first time he could barely just get it to move, but then once he finally got past, he like let it go and it all just floundered like right back on top of it. Then he tried again, and then it finally then decided to work. As the match progressed, and then of course he does another knee to the face to Tony D. Does of course this like clapping back thing. That was awesome. I'm gonna fucking miss this, by the way. I'm gonna miss him doing that. Ugh. Sucks that Ciampa's gone now, man. Shit. But anyway, you also had Tony D when they were like up in the water, up on the top rope, and then Tony D throws Ciampa off of him. Tony D jumps from the second rope into a straight up knee from Ciampa. That looked nasty. That was a really good spot. Eventually, Tony D goes for his crowbar again. He pulls it out from in between the steel steps. Ciampa dodges and gets out his hand, but then he's hit with a low blow from Tony D that the ref didn't see. And then he goes for a pin. 1, 2, quick, and then he like near fall. He like starts screaming at the the fucking bell key at the timekeeper, like, "Hey, do your job. That was 3." Grabbing the crowbar again, my man hits Willow's bed, goes for the fairy tale ending, near fall again. Eventually, Tony D manages to hit Ciampa on the exposed concrete. That, of course, Ciampa exposed, which I kind of like that. I kind of like the demise of Ciampa. That was some pretty clever storytelling right there. Where the demise of Ciampa was from like the one move he's like the most known for, was that one. Also, he also did the Gargano Escape as well. That I had a big smile on that because I was with Johnny, and the crowd started chanting, "Johnny wrestling." That was nice. But yeah, Tony D hits Ciampa on the exposed steel, or on the exposed concrete, then like kicks him in the face. I don't know if that's supposed to be Tony D's finisher or not. And of course, and then gets the 1, 2. I was kind of hoping Ciampa won this one, but you guys know how it's done in the business, where you put someone over when you retire, and you know how it is in the business. But yeah, great match. Everything it really need to be. If it was my way, I probably would have had Ciampa's last match be something akin to his Gargano matches, like this epic, long, 10 out of 10 masterpiece. But hey, Tony D ain't no Johnny Gargano, so you know what I mean. But yeah, Tony D did a great man. Ciampa looked amazing his last match, which was a great match overall. And yeah, eventually as Ciampa went up the ramp, Triple H came in there and they hugged and everything, and then made me realize that Ciampa and Triple H look very similar, especially with their long beards. Like, they basically look like father and son, low-key. But that was nice. That was a touching little moment, man. It sucks Ciampa's gone now, man. Seriously. NXT is now never going to be the same again. Like, first there was the name change, then Johnny left, now Ciampa's gone. I have nothing left. I have nothing left of NXT. But anyway, next up we had was a tag title match between the Creed brothers, Imperium, and MSK. Which actually, MSK came out with a DJ during the entrance. That was actually pretty cool. So this match was awesome. There was a lot of crazy spots. I'm sure I'm gonna miss a couple of them, but like one of them you had, I believe it was Wesley doing like this sideways jump thing off the top rope onto, I believe it was Fabian Eichner. It could have been Marcel, but you did have Fabian hit a devastating clothesline on Wesley that basically decapitated him, man. Looked absolutely nasty. You have one with I believe it might have been the other member of MSK, something else named, like throwing, I believe it was Marcel out, does a hurricane, like just basically yeets him out of the ring into the outside. Then I believe it was Wesley did like a Hurricane Rana or something that like basically flew that basically took that other member of Imperium and just threw him right back into his other tag mate. Looked amazing, man. That spot was crazy. You had the fat one of the Creed brothers. I don't know their names. I'm sorry, I legit don't know their names. Like the fat one, literally do like a cannonball off the top rope onto like 4 bodies on the outside, man. That had to have been probably the craziest spot, because I'm sure none of us knew that big man could fly. It wasn't the cleanest thing out there, but he got it in, man. So that was pretty insane, man. I mean, hey, when I take over, you do crazy shit, I guess. So you had that ludicrous movement, dude. That might have been the most insane spot night. You had another one of the Creed brothers. You had I believe it was MSK or a member of MSK with Fabian Eichner literally do a superplex off with one of the Creed brothers onto the other members of Imperium and MSK, man. That was absolutely nuts, man. That was another crazy spot. But then we eventually ended the match off with Imperium going for the finishing move. The member of MSK ends up countering out of it. Then he basically gets Fabian, throws Fabian Marcel Bartel off the top rope into basically a power bomb from one of the other member of Wesley onto the other member of MSK with Marcel Bartel. And that is what Mitch, I don't know how they did this, man. Half these spots, I'm like, yo, how do y'all coordinate half this shit? Because what happened was like one wrong move and you probably could have killed them, you know? Shout out to them, man. That spot looked absolutely amazing, man. And that is how MSK retains the NXT Tag Team Championships. Fantastic match, a lot of crazy spots. I'm sure I missed some, but that match was awesome. That was an amazing match. That one was very entertaining to watch. Next up was the women's match with Cora Jade, Kaylee Ray, Mandy Rose, and of course my girl Io Shirai. So first off, we found out that there's actually the NXT Women's Championship has been changed up. They changed it up. Now, surprisingly, they didn't like change it up as much as I thought they were gonna do. I mean, the NXT Championship itself stayed the same, so I don't know if they're like still saving those redesigns later. Because let's be real, they're gonna eventually change the NXT Men's, the NXT Championship, and the Women's Championship eventually to fit more with the 2.0 branding, since they still are very much in line with the original NXT. Now, or they might not, or they might just change it slightly, because for the women's title, all they did was change the belt strap from black to white. The belt itself is the same, so I don't know if that's their redesign or if they're gonna this is like a half redesign, and then later on they're gonna give it a full redesign to fully go in with the 2.0 branding eventually. That's all rainbow colored and shit. I don't know. Whatever the case may be, the belt looks amazing. Like honestly, I think it looks better with the white strap compared to the black strap, which I never thought I would actually say. But for the women's belt, it actually, with the silver, I think the white strap really suits it a lot better. I think it overall looks a little bit better. But yeah, so that's when Mandy came out of her. She looked fine as hell as always. Io looked amazing, it's great. Cora came out with a bunch of skateboarders, and they like name dropped the company she was with like 3 times during her entrance to make sure you really knew who these fuckers were. But yeah, so they had that. Eventually, after everyone got in the ring, of course they all started the match with them looking over at Mandy. They all started like closing on her, and then they all start fighting against Mandy, but Mandy started to fight back, basically fighting back and like throwing Jada into like or Cora into like into Io, and so eventually they managed to break out there, and then after that it was just typical fail. You had like Cora and Mandy fighting at, and you had Io and Kaylee Ray going at. Eventually, Kaylee Ray and Io would get back into the ring. They would have their little spat for a couple minutes. Like there was one part of the match where Cora like just completely like tackles Mandy down to the ground, just starts punching and slapping at her on the ground, screaming her head off, man. So you had that. There was also some pretty crazy spots where you had like Io like jumping off and doing her moonsault off the top rope. You had Cora Jade hitting a fucking Canadian destroyer, Lito. Yes, you heard that right. I don't know why I can't say her name. Cora Jade straight up hit a Canadian destroyer. I never thought I would see this day, man. That was probably the most shocking spot of the night. If it wasn't the big man doing the fucking cannonball on the top rope, it was Cora Jade hitting a goddamn Canadian destroyer. So yeah, so you had that madness. Then you had Io going for the jump for the shooting drop kick, going for the pin, but Mandy managed to break it up, and then she threw her over there, and like Mandy threw her to try to steal a victory. Kaylee Ray ended up kicking out. Eventually, Kaylee Ray actually gets Mandy into like the submission hold. I have no idea what the hell it's called. I don't believe they ever name dropped it on commentary. And while she's going to, Cora J obviously goes to break the cover, to break up the submission. But Io like rolls her up into a pin. She kicks out, but then counters her into a Texas cloverleaf. And so they're both in submission, just waiting for who's gonna tap? Who's gonna tap? And then Cora manages to break out of it and basically throws Io into to Kaylee Ray to break up their submission as well. So you had that. You also had eventually Io doing a moonsault onto Mandy Rose, and I thought, and she starts selling her ribs because she's I guess she got injured a little bit early in the match, and I'm like, come on, Io, come on, because I want Io to get the championship back, and then eventually Mandy Rose grabs her, throws her out of the way, and steals the victory. I legit, when that ref counted 1, 2, 3, I legit screamed and tweeted, "Damn it!" Because I was like, damn it! I was really hoping Io would get the top of it. But yeah, Mandy Rose retains the championship, surprisingly. Oh, and also, I almost forgot this one. You also had Io hit a fucking Spanish fly on Mandy Rose in the match. Looked absolutely beautiful, man. Looked absolutely beautiful. That ended up with Cora Jade ended up breaking up the pin where she just basically dropped on top of her like she did at War Games, I believe was the last time she did that. So yeah, amazing match. Little salty about the finish. I was kind of hoping Io would get the championship back, man. But hey, Mandy Rose has been doing great for the championship, and I'm curious to see how much longer they're going to keep the belt on her. I wouldn't be surprised they end up just giving the belt to Cora Jade once this feud's all over, because with Toxic Attraction and what's going on with Raquel and Cora Jade, it seems like it's going to be ending in that way where they're eventually going to just give, or Mandy is going to give the champ, or Cora is going to take the championship away from Mandy Rose. It seems like that's the direction NXT is going with them. I would assume, which should be fun. That should be interesting when that day comes. Or maybe they will give it back, or maybe they will give it to you. I don't fucking know. But I would assume that they're probably waiting for the right time to give it to Cora Jade. Maybe the next takeover or on a random episode of NXT. We'll have to wait and see on that. But overall, this is a fantastic match. Like I said, this was either the second best match of the card or it might have been the match tonight. Like I said, it's a toss between this and the ladder match. Next up, we actually had this little thing where both Indy Hart, where you had Indy and Dexter Lumis going up against whatever those other two names. I legit forget their names. Basically them trying who's gonna be the sexier cowboy? Now listen. And then of course on NXT, the previous week or whatever, they had that make out off, where they were listen. This is not NXT. I know this is the exact opposite of what NXT stood for back when Triple H was in charge. But I gotta say, this shit is entertaining. I am still thoroughly entertained watching this shit, man. And this segment here was awesome, man. I loved it. They were trying to get them in their own outfits or whatever, and then they met up at the clothing store. They were out there oh Dexy's gonna be way hotter than yours, and they're just going back and forth. Eventually they get their outfits, and then there was this poll. I'll say who was the hotter cowboy, or who was the hotter couple, or whatever the fuck it was called. I don't know if this was fan voted and mentioned on an episode of NXT, or if this was just some bullshit that the writers came up with. But either way, Index ended up winning this one 89% to 11. that had me in tears, man. That shit was fucking funny. When I saw when I saw that margin was so, they basically just completely just one completely just demolished them. I'm slipping on the actual word that I'm thinking up from that thing. But anyway, great segment. This was awesome. I loved it. Next up, you had Walter versus LA Knight. This match was awesome. Awesome. Of course, you had Walter hitting his devastating chops. And seriously, you could not pay me to take those fucking chops with this man. Ugh, what devastating chops. So we started the match off with him in a Colorado Bow tie-up, and eventually, then Walter gets him in LA Knight to a corner. Eventually, the ref tells him, "Hey, break it up!" He breaks up, then he does a light slap over to LA Knight. This enrages LA Knight. Then he starts punching and slapping at him, man, and then we're off to the races. Of course, you had Walter, as mentioned before, hitting his devastating chops, man. Eventually, you actually had LA Knight to counter one of them. That was actually pretty cool, and he blocks it around, or basically just grabs his arm. He's you have Walter, of course, also hit a powerbomb on top of the apron, it's fucking Kevin Owens. That was insane. One part of the match was insane was where LA Knight was on the top rope, and he's going up there to climb. And he's going up to climb on top, or going up to climb to hit a top over the top rope move. But then Walter literally just slaps him down back to the ground using one of his chops. And then there's another time where LA Knight was on the top rope, and Walter just clotheslines him, man. Both of them devastating. But back to the one where he just basically chops at him. LA Knight gets right back up, leaps over to the top rope like Pat McAfee in his match with Adam Cole, and then does a fucking superplex. It does a superplex onto Walter. That was absolutely madness. But yeah, this was a really great match, man. Really great. We're very enjoyable to watch. But we ended up ending the match off with LA Knight hitting with Walter rather. I believe this was after Walter clotheslined LA Knight off the top rope. Goes on top rope, hits a splash onto Walter's back. or onto LA Knight's back, and then eventually gets him up for a power bomb, and then of course goes for the 1, 2, 3. You also like this. There was another time where LA Knight really showed off how strong he is, where like he like picked, where like I forget what he was doing, but he ends up like grabbing Walter on like with and like manages to get him over his shoulders and like carries him like in the AA position, but like opposite where his back is on his shoulders, and then like throws him off there. That was really impressive because Walter is no small guy. I don't know how big he is or how much he weighs. I'm sure it's like 300 pounds or something, but Walter is no small guy, so that's very impressive that LA Knight could do that, man. But yeah. This was a great match, man, and really enjoyable match. So, of course, now leads us to the main event between Braun Breaker and Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler actually ended up retaining the championship here, which I was actually really surprised to see that. Also, this match was awesome, by the way. This match was phenomenal. I was really surprised because I had a feeling they probably would have gone and given Braun Breaker the title because, it's TakeOver. Oh, it's finally back in the arena. Let's give Braun Breaker his moment because he's definitely Vince's favorite right now. We can see how big, because we can tell that Vince wants him to be the face of NXT 2.0 right now. You can just tell from how he's been booked recently. So he comes in there once again with a fucking chainsaw. This man loves chopping through X's. I don't know if this was meant to be like a subtle reference to the Texas Chainsaw movies, but whatever. He ends up grabbing a chainsaw and cutting right through the X before and like busting right through it, man. And so Dolph makes his entrance in the ring. Dolph actually like slaps at for a bit, and Braun Breaker looks like he wanted to fucking kill him, but the ref like stopped him, got in his way, and then of course you also had Robert Roode also getting in his way, skates him again. But then as soon as the match started up, Braun Breaker literally grabs him and like just throws him into the corner, man. This man was seeing red. So they go at it, man. Of course you had Robert Roode getting involved, and when Braun Breaker was going for a spear later. This man went for like 4 spears, and each one of them looked like they cut Dolph's in half. Like seriously, this man can sell the fuck out of a fucking spear. Like that's like the one thing I've noticed Dolph is really good at. He's good at selling, but this man can fucking sell a spear. I mean, he can make it seem like he just went completely through it, man. Seriously, all these spears that Braun Breaker hit on Dolph looked absolutely devastating, man. But anyway. He's like setting up for the spear. Robert Roode starts grabbing at his leg, and then he's like trying to get at him. The ref is telling him to let go, and eventually the ref ends up kicking him out. And Braun basically leaves the ring and starts following him out, basically as Robert's saying whatever the fuck he is. And while all that's going, the ref is distracted. You can actually see Dolph is grabbing at the second turnbuckle for one of the padding on the second turnbuckle to expose, which we ended up seeing get used later on the match. Eventually, once he gets back in there, he gets a knee to the face from Dolph Ziggler. Eventually, as the match progresses on, Braun is hitting spears, and there was one part where Dolph ended up going for, Eventually, you go for spears and other moves. Dolph does his thing. Did like a beautiful elbow drop off the top rope, very Shawn Michaels-esque. Looked really fucking good. Even it just started to do toning of the band too at the end of the match too. That was pretty funny. But eventually, I believe Braun hit another spear on Dolph Ziggler. It might be one of his other moves. Robert Roode comes back and legit pulls Dolph off of underneath Braun Breaker and obviously breaks up the pin. And so obviously Braun is pissed off at this. He's going after Robert over that. But then once he gets back into the ring, he gets hit with a famous into a zigzag. Looked amazing. And I actually thought the match was over at this point, but it ended up only being a near fall with a 2 count. But we ended up eventually ending the match off with Braun Breaker lifting Dolph Ziggler up, and then Dolph ends up breaking at the eyes, and before he throws him into that exposed turnbuckle that we saw that he exposed earlier in the match, and then leads right into a super kick for the 1, 2, 3. Fantastic match, man, and a fantastic way to end the show. And Dolph is still champ, which I'm surprised about, but I'm also kind of happy to see Dolph is still champ because we all know how Dolph has kind of been screwed over by Vince, at every twist and turn. We all know what's happened to him, so I'll take what I can get when I get to see Dolph as a champion, man. So I'm happy to see Dolph is still a champion. But, yeah, man, that's all I got to say with TakeOver Stand and Deliver this year. Like I said, a fantastic show all around. But, like I said, this is the weakest TakeOver I have at least seen. There might have been some ones before I started watching NXT, but to me, this is the weakest TakeOver I've seen. But yeah, man, overall, my final verdict for TakeOver Stand and Deliver will be a 9 out of 10. So like I said, Still a fantastic show, but definitely not of that takeover quality necessarily. But yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing what's going to happen the following on Wednesday on Tuesday night next week. And yeah, I'm going to go prepare for WrestleMania now, I guess. I'm going to be miserable during this week with all the videos I gotta do. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did, subscribe if you're new, follow me on Instagram and Twitter if you like it. Links down in the description box below. And as always, come out for more. See you guys next time.